Over to you. Yeah.
Yeah, very good afternoon and welcome back after this nice tea and coffee served to all of you. I would prefer that the audience, you can hear me? Okay. So some of you can take the seats in the front. It will make the whole discussion more engaging and interesting. Can I request? आ रही है आवाज? That's okay. आपने कॉफी अच्छा नहीं पिलाया लगता है दूध कम था तो फीडबैक हैज स्टार्टेड कमिंग चाय पत्ती भी अच्छी नहीं थी नाउ वी आर हैविंग पीपल फॉर द फ्रंट सीट्स क्लासरूम में ना जब पढ़ाया करते थे तो अगर फ्रंट रो में स्टूडेंट्स नहीं हो तो टीचर का पढ़ाने का आधा मूड तो वैसे ही खराब हो जाता है बोला या तो मैं बेकार हूँ या क्लास बेकार है either of them is into some problem. So sitting here I'm finding we need to have few more people in the front rows so as to make the speakers more excited while they speak. Because speaker का भी ना एक mood होता है बोलने से पहले और mood जो है वो front row को देख के बनता है पीछे वाले चेहरे तो नहीं front तो चलिए हमें छोड़ दीजिए है ना तो फ्रंट रो के जो चेहरे हैं वो उनकी एक्साइटमेंट से ही स्पीकर अपनी एक्साइटमेंट बिल्ड करता है अब सब लोग पीछे रहेंगे और उनका चेहरा तो वैसे ही नहीं दिखता है ठीक से देन द स्पीकर डजंट फील दैट नो एंगेज्ड विद द ऑडियंस मे आई स्टिल रिक्वेस्ट सम ऑफ यू टू प्लीज कम फॉरवर्ड आगे की कुर्सियां खाली हैं या प्लीज कम फॉरवर्ड इट डजंट टेक लॉन्ग इट्स जस्ट अ 1 minute वॉक फ्रॉम योर सीट टू द फ्रंट रो Yeah, this is also, you are welcome to occupy these also. Yeah, Kuldeep sir is, thank you so much sir. So thank you so much. I'll not take further time in redistributing the audience, but let me first of all introduce myself. I am Vivek Dua. I am placed in BSNL corporate office. I take care of fiber to home and Wi-Fi rollouts in the country. BSNL for last 2 years is very particular on the partnership model because realizing our primary weakness, which is the customer touch point, we thought that the LCO model, which has been doing really well for last 3 decades in the cable industry, is the right model to follow while we roll out the fiber to home services. And then you see the problem with government always has been the payments to the partners. That problem also, we always wanted to be addressed. When we connect with our partners, they should have full confidence while they serve the customer, they bear a cost of doing that. The payments to the partners have to be very, very seamless. And I come from an IT background. I worked 10 years in data centers. So having a knack of IT, probably for me to think of building efficiencies on the processes were relatively easy. And then when I took over the sales role, it was always very engaging, interesting for me to see that how the sales process and it being IT driven would help in building the whole ecosystem in a very productive manner. And thanks to all what happened in last 2 years in the IT enablement and the partner confidence, we were at something like 3 lakh FTTH connections when I joined 3 years back, and we have been adding 1 lakh connections per month plus because of the partner ecosystem. And this is the confidence we are seeing all over the country. We serve more than 2600 STD codes. Somebody was talking about large FTTH happening in some 7 or 10 odd cities when I heard, but believe me, sitting in BSNL, I can tell you that the growth model that we are having, it's very inclusive. And we see that FTTH is happening all over the country and serving customer across 2600 cities or towns is something we really feel proud about. So I don't serve only Noida or only Ghaziabad. We are spread across Uttar Pradesh, and you go to any town in Uttar Pradesh, you'll find BSNL's fiber presence. And the credit goes to all the partners who contribute in the last mile extended to the customer in the regular services. So that's just to brief and sell myself that more partnership happens in the growth of FTTH or BSNL. Now I thank organizers for having such a beautiful audience and very esteemed speakers for today's second session that we have. We have Mr. Dean, who's the Global Director, Emerging Markets. He's Global Product Line Management, Network Cable and Connectivity, CommScope. And the theme to the speaker is Converged Networks, FTTH and 5G. After that, you will be hearing from Mr. Rajiv. He's from Lepton Software Exports and Research. We are customers to them. Mr. Rajneesh Taneja, he's the board member for Corsys Technologies. His theme will be Digital India, Optical Fiber in the Key. Mr. Shailendra Singh, I have spoken to him over phone, so now I have the opportunity to hear from him live here. Thank you for being here. And Mr. Sudhir Kunder, he's the country director for DE-CIX. We were discussing last time we met in the virtual session. It's very happy to see that we are here across the table and discussing live. So it's a very happy moment for all of us to find ourselves in a single room and start having more engaging discussions. So thank you once again, and may I request now Mr. Dean to please come forward and share his thoughts. You have a presentation? Yeah, please, go ahead.
Hello, thank you for having me. My name is Dean. I work for CommScope and I'm the Director of Emerging Markets in Network, Cable and Connectivity. I'm going to talk to you today a little bit around converged networking with FTTX and 5G. Oh. So, not too long ago, telecom providers offered multiple services over individual infrastructure networks with different enabling technologies. So networks are changing, they're converging. Discrete systems are disappearing. Networks today look totally different than they did a few years ago. Technology enhancements are driving a need to do more with existing infrastructure. So fibre is an enabler for 5G, and the backhaul of 5G networks could leverage a common FTTH infrastructure, leading to a converged network platform. So as new trends develop, ensuring your network can adapt and accommodate growth is key to reducing total cost of ownership, or TCO, and ensure your network is flexible enough to address future scalability needs. So when I'm asked about what I look for in a network infrastructure solution, my normal starting points are performance and quality. While these are important, however, cost is not far behind when I'm thinking of that. So cost and value, it can mean very, very different things to operators. So when evaluating cost, organisations should always think in. So considering costs should include the following: initial installation costs and the ease to deploy that solution. The ease of operations and maintenance. So operational friendly product solutions are key to longevity of the solution. So solutions should support current and future applications. So you don't want to put yourself in a situation where you have to replace the network 3 to 5 years later, as it's no longer applicable. That is definitely not 12, 24, 48, 96, which allows for dedicated fibre capacity additional. The fibre infrastructure used for FTTX networks are ideally placed for small cell penetration. So some key considerations. Networks that meet FTTX coverage and maximising potential small cell locations without separate network builds. So operators can design to that. Design converged networks with consideration of differing service levels. FTTX may not have the same service level requirements that is required for a 5G small cell or a dedicated business service. Therefore, operators need to plan to have that flexibility and fibre capacity to serve a small cell and those additional dedicated services. But with that comes some challenges with that architecture as well. You can run the risk of overcapitalisation of fibre assets based on standardisation, where if you standardise a fibre count and deploy it everywhere, you can end up with more fibre than you actually need. And it's a big cost of network deployments, especially in big and large rollouts. Cable needs to be accessed at each terminal location and spliced. So that means cable prep and splice requires skilled labour and specialised equipment, and that introduces a high quantity of field splices, which leads to increased labour cost and time. So network rollout can be compromised with competition to secure those access to skilled splicing resources, and it's really key in this market where I hear a lot that a splicing resource is cheap, it doesn't cost a lot of money, but we saw from our friend Airtel earlier on that there is contentious, those resources are not always available. So we want to try and minimise that. Integrity of field splicing in some environments can be challenging to the network integrity. So one way to address this is a converged plug-and-play approach. So plug-and-play solutions or pre-connectorised solutions are more widely adopted in North and Latin America. So affordable pre-connectorised solutions will become more available and adopted in the Asia region. So plug-and-play solutions can support increased provider and government targets, especially for large-scale fibre to the prem rollouts. Operators are more and more seeing the potential value of pre-connectorised solutions for FTTX, and that includes like speed of deployment, faster time to market, faster return on investment, factory terminated integrity, lower cost of labour and lower construction costs. It really influences. So your choice of these types of solutions will influence all aspects of your network build and can drastically reduce costs and provide many tangible and intangible benefits to the operator. So in this space, plug-and-play needs to have high network applicability. It needs to provide FTTX, but with additional flexibility to add additional dedicated fibre services. Importantly, it needs to be able to augment and add further value with existing splicing distribution architectures. It needs to fit in seamlessly, and it needs to provide true cost of deployment benefits and reducing total cost of ownership. And also allows for a clear path to next generation PON, as well as service-ready levels for 5G and other services. So finally, in summary, converged networks are a natural response to two key business realities: the ever-increasing demand for bandwidth, the need to reduce CapEx and OpEx costs. Fibre networks offer exceptional opportunities to better manage both priorities. So convergent fibre infrastructure has the capability to transform every level of your network. Thank you very much.
Hello. Thank you, Mr. Dean. Converged networks, that's what he talked about, and you heard in the earlier session also that how important and critical the fibre infrastructure would be to give a very high speed backhauling to the 5G network, or even today if you see the Wi-Fi network. We have a lot of Wi-Fi network in the country, and while he was speaking, my mind was going to one village which I recently visited. It is next to Mysore, hardly 30 kilometers. The village population is around 6,000. And there is no 3G, 4G network in that village. And because now we have a partner model to roll out Wi-Fi, that partner had put up 20 access points in that village. I'm repeating, 20 access points in that village to do a good coverage. So giving the backhaul to those access points is BSNL responsibility, but maintaining those access points is partner's responsibility. And 20 access point roughly would mean investing something like a 2.5 to 3 lakh investment in that village, right? And plus power is a marginal cost because they don't consume so much of power. But for a 3 lakh investment that the partner did, last month I had an assessment on the revenues which have started coming in. The recharge of Wi-Fi in that village is to the tune of 80,000 rupees in a month. And if I'm giving to the partner 40,000 rupees, you can very well imagine the kind of demand, the kind of affordability, all those factors which were questioned in the first session. I was really having doubts in my mind whether people know the facts. The demand is really very high. The affordability is not a problem. The biggest problem is reliability of the network in that village. Because the kind of life we have entered into, it's a pure digital life, be it your education or your work or you talk of anything in entertainment, everything has gone from a conventional mode to an IP mode. And you need to sit on the IP network to take benefits of all these changes which have come in the technology. And if you have a reliable network, believe me, the rural demand is the biggest demand for next 1 decade. The urban economy or the urban demand will not grow in the manner in which we are seeing the rural demand. The only thing is a reliable backhaul to the village, to the Gram Panchayat, to the block, and then we believe that the last mile champion, or we call the partner, has to be a local guy in one form or the other. We call it revenue share model or any other business model which fits the right thing for the business to happen. It has to be the local champion who does the service part. And if that connecting the dots happens, then you have entered into the new phase of digital revolution. So thank you, Mr. Dean, for enlightening us with the future of technology. May I now request our next speaker, Mr. Rajiv Saraf. He's from the Lepton Software Export and Research. And I request him to please come to the dais and share his thoughts.
Hello, hello. Thank you, Mr. Dua. Thanks for being here. I'm glad to see my customers here. I can see my friends here. I can see my prospects here. I can see my teachers here. So it's a great gathering, and I'm so glad to be here today after almost 2 years of being in the home, and this is a great opportunity to meet everybody here. And so I want to take this opportunity to really talk about, of course, how we see some of the technologies, especially that we work into, how that's going to, change, and it's very critical to your FTTX or the 5G, rollout. So, if for the last few years, one or two buzzwords have been around digitalization and automation. Right? These are two things that everybody's been talking about. And every time you talk about, whatever you bring involved, so you brought about all kinds of systems into your organization to do digitalization and automation. But there are three basic sets of questions that will always are core to any business, and that will always, you're always seeking answers to them. Can I have my presentation here? Presentation. Right. So what I mentioned, three core questions that every telco ISP has. The first one is, where is my customer? The second one is, where is my network? And the third one is, where are my people? Right? And everything evolves around that, right? Whatever solution you might look at. And wherever the word where comes, the location comes into play. Wherever the word location comes into play, a map comes into play. And where the map comes into play, the GIS technology comes into play. And that's where we see ourselves. We see GIS as the enabler for the whole telco network customer life cycle. And so this is what I'm going to talk about. So I believe that your network journey or your digital journey actually begins with us. And I'm going to talk about how how the GIS technology is critical to your journey overall. I'll talk about taking reference from the planning and managing your network and operational, tracking and even we'll talk about how in the sales and marketing and feasibility everywhere, there's a play for the GIS. Now, so how do you actually go about doing it, right? So one way to do it is that actually build a digital twin of your network, right? I mean, you have to build a digital twin of the network. What a digital twin means is that what you have, you replicate in your office what you have on the ground. So if you look at Google Maps, I'm taking example of Google Maps. What is Google Maps? Google Maps is actually a digital twin of your world, external world, in a 2D way. I mean, of course, now people are coming with a 3D view of your digital world. And if you are able to overlay and put all the information related to your network, what you are creating is a digital twin. And that's what actually we believe is the technology that you need to manage, operate, plan your network and manage your customers end to end, right? And that's where we, as an organization, we have brought in a solution we call network access. We manage the complete journey from plan to cash. Whether it starts off with a strategic planning. I mean, when you start, say you are a greenfield operator, the first thing you want to know which cities I should roll out, right? I mean, what kind of information do you need? You might need information in terms of income levels. You might need information in terms of, internet penetration or mobile data usage or handset distributions. So the first level is you want to do strategic planning, and within the city also you may want to identify certain areas where you want to roll out, and that's where we have a tool that actually helps you out with that kind of. We bring all the data and information onto a map and basically help you out to that kind of work, right? Then you get into a more detailed planning where you say, okay, now I have got defined an area, I've got demand points, and I want to plan my network, and we have an automated FTTX planning tool which takes all the inputs and boom, in 10 seconds you have the network in front of you all planned. Of course, you have to do some modifications after that. And then you go out and roll out, and once you roll out and build the network, you basically then do a complete inventory of your network. And once you have inventory of the network, then you can start offering all the services. So in the whole fiber lifecycle management starts from planning, then you have an inventory, then you do the management of your network, which is the operations and the tracking. And then, of course, you want to work on customer acquisition, which is basically you want to last mile, feasibility. And the most critical is the customer experience part, right? Now, so we'll talk about, the first thing I want to talk about how we as an organization help in your whole network planning process, right? I mean, the whole network planning process I mentioned about starts off from strategic planning. Then it moves into, once you have a strategic planning, identified area, you do a high-level design. From high-level design, then you move to a low-level design, then you have a team which goes into the field, which builds out the network, and then when it builds out the network, you actually create as-built drawings, and then you bring it back and put into your system for further, further use down the line. So we have a complete planning as a part of the network access, life cycle management, fiber labs in the Geo Suite. We have a whole smart, planner, which does the end-to-end planning for you, from a macro-level planning to a micro-detailed, equipment level planning. The next part that you do is what we talked about earlier, is creating a whole digital twin, which are what in our industry people call inventory. But what is inventory? Inventory is nothing but actually creating a whole network in a digital form back into your office, right? So inventory would be, okay, where my fiber is going, where my splitters are there, where my splicing is there, where my duct, trenches, all kind of details. Our system allows you to put all the details. It is on top of a map. So you can see exactly where your network is. You can go down to a micro level, splice level details. You can do your outside plant. You can do your inside plant. You can get a rack view. You want to get a field view. You want to get a circuit level view. All this data resides into our system. And without even going to without even going to the field from anywhere, I mean, of course, even without going to office because it's available on the web and the mobile, you can just sitting from anywhere, you can have a complete view of your network. From top view to down to the each and every circuit level view. And you can do end-to-end trace, whatever you want to do, right? So that's the level of detail that our system, provides today. And this is not, it doesn't provide just for the heck of providing. It provides because there's a need for that. If you think of when we have a lockdown during COVID, how did operators actually were able to connect their customers, even look at their utilization and capacities and availability. It was all happening through systems like this. And we are a critical part of most of the operators that we work at, whom we work with. So once you have this whole digital twin of your network into your, into your hands, in your mobile, what can you do? It doesn't matter whether you are a telco, whether you are in a tower company, or whether you're an infrastructure provider, whether you're ISP, the needs are almost the same. You can start looking at, all parts of the network. You can look at end-to-end, how do I manage end-to-end my network? You can start looking at utilization. Where is my network getting utilized more? Which area is having the highest growth? When will the capacities, when will I have 90% capacity? Where do I need to plan for the next growth? So all this information is available in our system. You can, at a click of a button, you can get the information, and that's how the wheel, it keeps running, right? I mean, there's a whole feedback loop built into the system. You get a customer, and customer says, I need a connection. You want to connect him prop. How do you know where is the available fiber? So even finding out end-to-end connectivity for the customer from POP to the customer location, all these kind of queries or all those kind of analytics actually done into our system, and that's what all our customers are using it for. Now, so you have a network, you have a huge network, and it's not. Everybody knows. I mean, all the ISPs know it's not easy to manage your network in India, right? I mean, suddenly you realize that there's some road being built or some flyover built, and the JCB will come, start digging, and boom, your network is down, right? So we have now, so the third part of the whole life cycle, once you have digital twin, is that you can track your people on the field, right? Wherever they are, you can see respect to where your network is. Once you get a ticket, you can actually pass on the ticket to the nearest guy from the fault location. He can go and serve the customer. One of the most important thing is, whenever there's a cut in the fiber, the OTDR, it's slightly technical, is the OTDR tells you what is the logical location or logical distance of the cut. But how do you locate that cut on the ground? Saying that, okay, I want to locate it to a 5 meter or 10 meter accuracy, because you don't want to dig the whole area, right? You don't want to dig a half a kilometer to find out where the cut is. Our system converts the OTDR into a physical location on the map, and it can show you exactly on the map where the cut is. And you can just have to send the crew to that particular location and fix the cut. And of course, once he fixes the cut, immediately all the information gets updated into your central server, so there's a splice there, or whatever is there, whatever has been done, and your data is always up to date, right? And I talked about, you want to do end-to-end connectivity, you want to do a trace, everything, you can do through the systems, right? So that's the whole beauty. So the network access or GIS technology it's an enabler, it's an underlying technology with the touch points with every department. It's not about one particular department, it's not about one particular user. It runs across the organization and has a touch point and that's what most of our customers do. I mean, wherever they use it, it's across the organization. Now, you must be wondering what's the role of, improving sales or customer experience, right? The very basic example. You have a sales guy, he goes to a customer or prospect premises, and the person says, yeah, I need a 1 GB connection, can you give it to me? Now, typical cycle is he'll call his technical team. The technical team will send somebody to the field. They'll come back, and it might take a week before you come back to the customer and say, oh, yeah, whether we can give you a connection or not. What we have done is that we have brought all that power in the hands of the sales guy. Sitting at the location, from the app itself, the person can check whether the customer, is it qualified or not, whether we can provide that service to him or not. You can extend the same logic and the same concept to a customer or a prospect self-service portal. He doesn't even have to come to you. He can go to your website, he can put his location, and boom, it can tell you, okay, how much time it will take, or whether we can provide you a connection. If not, how much time it will take, what is the cost, everything can come up directly. That's what we have done with the customers. It's a service qualification tool that we provide. And the good part is, this is the only tool that we also provide. We do the last mile. We also do both wireless and wireline, because a lot of the customers on the ISPs on the last mile actually do both. They do point-to-point as well as on the FTTX. So, immediately again, you don't have to go to the field. Sitting at your office or with the sales guys, staying at the from the customer premises itself, he can do end-to-end feasibility. Whether it's for retail customer, whether it's for enterprise customer, or when you talk of 5G rollout, or any network, even 4G rollout, now we know that the amount of traffic that the sales are going to carry is huge, and now is to do a backhaul of the traffic, right? And we all of us understand the ultimate, the backhaul has to happen on the fiber. Now, this is exactly what the large operators are now using tools like this to find out, okay, wherever I'm going to put my 5G network, where is the nearest fiber point, where is the nearest POP? Can I connect it to a fiber directly, or do I need to move to microgrid? So all these kind of analysis we are doing with customers to find out, and it's really helping them into rolling out the 5G network. So I'll just quickly walk you through a case study. We are one of the enablers in the whole BharatNet project. I mean, there were two different models. One was a state model, one was the model that BharatNet initiated. And we know the problems with some of the things that BharatNet initiated directly, and we know they had to come out as a RFP later on to remap their network. So it actually makes a lot of sense for ISPs to start documenting the network from the day one. You don't have to wait till your network is built out. You have to start doing it from day one so that you know where exactly your network is. In case of BharatNet, we know they're having a big challenge after laying probably more than 100,000 kilometers fiber. They don't even know where the fiber is. So we actually worked with the Gujarat government, the GFGNL, and from day one, we have been working with them. We helped them, from day one, from rolling off the network, assigning it to the field force, tracking the progress of the network rollout. Everything is actually happening, on our solution, on our tool today. So it's probably one of the most, organized network that you can probably see from the BharatNet side. So of course, we got, just because we did a great job with the customer, and we got good, reviews from them as well. Can we play this video here at the bottom? There's a video. Can you play that? There's 1 minute.
The YouTube link.
There's a YouTube link here. No, you can click on the video also. This is not my video. This is something that the Gujarat government had actually released. No, go back. Or you can play the YouTube link also.
PPT मोड से बाहर आ जाओ, फिर क्लिक करो.
कर दो उसको करके कट पेस्ट कर दो दूसरा. Yeah. Yeah, I can. I thought the laptop would be here, but मैं आ जाऊं?
BharatNet is an ambitious project of the Government of India. BharatNet is an ambitious project of the Government of India that BharatNet is an ambitious project of the Government of India that aims to connect more than 2.5 lakh Gram Panchayats with high-speed broadband through fiber connectivity by building state-of-the-art digital highway. The initiative has mandated all the states to roll out the project in a phased manner. Gujarat joined the BharatNet mission in its second phase. Gujarat started marching towards building high-speed digital highway by setting up Special Purpose Vehicle (GFGNL), which is nearing completion, to connect each Gram Panchayat with a minimum of 100 Mbps internet speed, scaled up to 1 Gbps, as it required to lay around 32,961 kilometers underground optical fibers through the EPC model to connect 7,692 Gram Panchayats. That means 136 blocks across 23 districts, with around 408 OLTs at strategic locations installed at BSNL exchanges to roll out GPON network. We connected each Gram Panchayat to State Data Center in Gandhinagar on our own network. 90% of the optical fiber cables have been laid down. 396 of the OLTs have been installed. 6,226 of Gram Panchayats have been lit up out of the target of 7,692. And the count is on. This would pave the way for Gujarat to become the first model Indian state with full-fledged digital villages. Transformations have begun. Villages are getting well positioned to dive into the world of digital services.
Thanks. So this is actually a 1-year-old video, but everything, the whole rollout of the Gujarat fiber has happened actually on our platform, and all the images that you see here it actually came out from our system. Just to give you a profile of what our solution has been doing. So we are deployed now globally. We are present in more than 15 countries now. We support. We can go to the next slide. Yeah. We support multiple technologies, including wireless. Our systems globally together map more than 154 million kilometers of fiber pair. In our systems, we have more than 15 million asset points. And if you look at India, today we have more than 70%, more than 75% market share. We work with the top, telcos. We work with the mid-size and the small ISPs. We have different sort of solutions for different level of players. We have on-prem solution for the large guys. We have cloud-based SaaS model solution for the small ISPs who don't want to create their own infrastructure. Okay, thank you. Can we quickly just go to the next slide? Okay, sorry. Anyway, so this is just the other solutions I have, but I'm sure I'm running out of time. So just can we move to the last slide, please? Yeah. So anyway, so thank you very much. We have offices across the globe now. We are a truly Indian multinational. We have offices in India, Singapore, Dubai, and US, and we have a joint venture in Australia now. So thank you very much. And thanks for the support from our customers and our well-wishers here.
Thank you, Rajiv ji. And he's very well pointed out that where is your network, where is your customer, and where are your team members. If all this is properly put into the system through the geo-coordinating that is there in the maps, we did the same thing in BSNL. We have a portal called bookmyfiber.bsnl.co.in, where 1 year back when customers were booking, my lead to order was hardly 5 to 7%. And over 1 year, it has improved in certain geographies to an extent of 70 to 80%. Just by having the geo-coordinates of the customers while they book the connection. And then I know which is the OLT from which the customer will get serviced. And I know who is the partner who will do the actual servicing. So all are correlated in the system. And then right after the customer has put the request, a couple of minutes, I can put that lead to the concerned partner. That's the beauty of system which all geo-positioning or geo-coordinating helps us, and the whole productivity which comes that Rajiv ji very well explained. Thank you so much for giving us all those insights. I'm very sure a lot of you would like to have your systems made better by all these smartness getting built with the geo-positioning. Thank you, and now I request our next speaker, Mr. Rajneesh Taneja, the board member for Courses Technologies. The theme is Digital India, Optical Fiber is the key. Thank you.
Distinguished panel, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I am representing Courses Technologies, which is a part of Pratap Group, and we have 3 verticals in Pratap Group. We manufacture optical fiber cable and accessories. We plan, design, and deploy networks, and we also operate and maintain the networks. So, throughout the day, every day, 365 days, we live optical fiber cable. So, that is the topic on which I will be speaking today. According to me, optical fiber is the key for digital revolution of this decade. Last decade was dedicated to wireless, and according to me, this decade will be wireline. And as rightly said by Mr. Vivek, backhaul network is the most important part of any network. The quality of network is as good as your backhaul network. And gradually, microwave will become less relevant and optical fiber has to take over. So I'll start my presentation. So this is the brief agenda, the telecom growth story. What is the current fiberization status? What are the drivers for next level business opportunities? And what are the obstacles? Now, as I said, this is a brief about what we do. We are into manufacturing optical fiber cable. We are designing and deploying networks, and we are also managing network pan-India and across all the operators. Now I'll take you through the growth story of India. We all know we are the second largest telecom market in the world. And India is the largest data consumer. Average data consumed is 14.1 GB per subscriber. The IP traffic has gone up almost from 1.7 EB to 6.5 EB today, probably thanks to pandemic. We are number 2, as I said, in the largest, in the number of subscribers. We are almost 1.2 billion subscribers today. The tele density is almost 88%. We have almost 28 lakh kilometers of optical fiber deployed and almost 70 lakh telecom towers. We have 658 million, which is the second highest number of internet users in the world. Mobile data traffic has grown from 7x in 2016 to 2021, which is almost 49% CAGR. We are number 2 in the smartphone market. 84 billion minutes of video content was achieved in year 2021. It has crossed, which is almost 1,59,000 years. Average internet traffic per month generated by FTTH network in an household is almost 132.5 GB. So these are some of the data points by which we can say that we have reached a certain level and we are now ready to jump to the next level of telecom growth story. This is just one of the data which show higher the fiber, more data it takes and consumes. As I said, quality of network is as good as the backhaul network, and gradually the microwave part will be taken over by optical fiber. So optical fiber is the key. This is what is being indicated. Though we have gradually year on year increased our optical fiber rollout, but there is still a huge gap. The bandwidth requirements of high definition content and data heavy applications need fiber exponentially. In 2021, 33 EB internet usage, which is expected to be 144 EB. EB means exabyte 10 to the power 18. So you can assume, you can understand what is the kind of data I'm talking about. Now, per capita fiber deployment in India is just 0.09 kilometers. That is just 90 meters per capita, which is almost 1.1 kilometer in China and 1.7 in a country like USA. So there is a huge gap in terms of per capita fiber deployed in India. Tower fiberization, which is key for any wireless network, is roughly between 25 to 30% presently in India. And as a country, we aspire to take it to almost 70%. So that is a huge opportunity in terms of optical fiber rollouts. Now, capex required for fiberizing 70% of optical fiber of towers by optical fiber cable will require an estimated 6 lakh fiber kilometer at an investment of $8 billion US. So that's a huge potential in the market. My earlier colleagues have already mentioned the FTTX penetration is only 5% in terms of wireline, which has to be considerably increased. So overall, there is a huge potential. One of the biggest hurdles, which I'll be talking in my later slides, is ROW permissions and the ROW infrastructure in the country. Now, what are the drivers for OFC rollout? 5G, we all know. Replacing microwave with optical fiber in backhaul network. Only 479 million subscribers in India are presently having a 4G coverage. So there is a huge gap in 4G coverage as compared to the number of subscribers we have in India. And with 5G coming, we have to immediately bridge this gap. 5G is expected in 2022, which is already delayed as compared to the rest of the world. So this will increase the fiber demand exponentially. ICT apps, we all know, we all talk about various things like e-education, e-health, smart cities and all those things. So with all these applications, it will demand a large number of optical fiber, cloud services, data centers, then the entire startup ecosystem, high definition videos and gaming, convergence. Some of the speakers earlier said about convergence, that is the most important thing. Smart homes, smart securities, smart transport, smart grid. So all these things which we today talk about requires huge amount of data and which can be served only with optical fiber networks. So these are some of the data points. Tower fiberization, we have already talked about. Small cell deployment has to increase from on a basis of 45% CAGR. IBS and DAS systems, there's a huge opportunity of almost 25% CAGR it has to increase by. Wi-Fi hotspots with almost 20% CAGR it has to increase. So backhaul deployment, tower fiberization, last mile, intracity fiber, national long distance, microwave. This is a market of almost 480 billion INR. These are the estimates by one of the reports of E&Y. Now some of the interesting data points I have captured here. The number of users on WhatsApp or Facebook or YouTube in India, we'll be surprised to know, is more than the population of many of the countries. So 530 million users are there on WhatsApp. That's a huge number. And this all talks about data, data, and data. And data means fiber, fiber, and fiber. Average daily time spent by an Indian on apps is almost 4.5 hours. These are the statistics. Digital transactions has increased from 6 million to 20 million today. There are 4 million digital-only subscribers who work only on digital. And there are 500 plus million subscribers on different OTT or free TV platforms. Digital payments, 7,422 crore is the value today when we talk about in 2021-22. These are some of the challenges I have listed out in rolling out optical fiber networks in a large way in the country. The first and foremost and the most important thing is ROW. Still, after so many years in rolling out optical fiber, like I have spent more than 27 years in telecom now with almost all operators. And ROW continues to remain the biggest hurdle. The cost of laying an optical fiber network is the highest in India because of one of the reasons is ROW permissions. So there has been a demand for a very long time about single window ROW clearances, then standardized rates and simplifying the procedures. We have been seeing multiple policies, but it is still something yet to be achieved. Then, as my friend rightly said about digitization, still many of the networks in the country are, the owners themselves are not aware where their cable is going. So the quality of digitization is very important. That is again a challenge. And how we can reach a stage where we can say dig only once. So the coordination between various authorities, water, gas, electricity, telecom, where we can have a utility corridor kind of system where we can dig only once, that will substantially improve the quality of optical fiber network. The network which we lay should ideally serve us for at least 20 years, but what we see in last so many years, every 2 to 5 years, we need to replace major parts of the networks. So these are some of the hurdles we need to address as an industry. Now, how we can add value to this business opportunity? As I said, we have 3 verticals. We manufacture cable and accessories. We design, plan, and execute networks. And we operate networks as a Pratap Group. So we have 3 companies: Forces Technologies, Backhaul Technologies, and Pratap Technocrats. We have a pan-India footprint. We are attached with almost all the players in the market, both public and private, in some form or the other. My friend Rajiv was showing the video for Gujarat GFGNL. We were a major player in that network rollout. Presently, we are doing networks for BBNL in multiple states. We are also executing a very prestigious project for Indian Army on China border, both in Uttarakhand and entire northeast states. So we are actively involved with all public and private players. We have a trained manpower. We have our own training institute located at our factory premises where we train Under Skill India program, we train our own manpower and also manpower for other people. This is our production facility in near Indore for Courses Technologies, where we manufacture. We have a dedicated R&D lab and quality control. Our capacity is 3 million fiber kilometer per annum. These are the various types of cables we manufacture. As I said, we are a one-stop shop for a telecom requirement in optical fiber networks. We have our corporate office in Gurgaon. These are our coordinates. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rajneesh. He spoke really well on the optical fiber is the key. ऑप्टिकल फाइबर आप सभी के घरों में वो खुशियां लेके आता है जो आज से 20 साल पहले केबल टीवी लेकर आता था. Because all the entertainment today, and of course including your work also, has moved to the optical fiber. तो आप जितनी इज्जत से अपने केबल टीवी वाले को संभाल के रखते थे ना, उतनी इज्जत से आज आप फाइबर वाला जो लड़का है या जो आदमी है उसका मोबाइल नंबर और उसको उससे उतने प्यार से बात करना कि भाई दिक्कत होगी जरा देखो इसे. So all that change has come, but probably the basic needs of entertainment and then to do work will remain the same. God will keep coming and new avatars will keep happening. But yes, we need to evolve with time. That is the basic thing. And very well explained by Rajneesh ji. Thank you so much. And now I request our next speaker, Mr. Shailendra Singh. He is the co-founder and CEO for Shaildhar Telecom Services, and the theme on which he'll speak is FTTH technology for ISPs in India.
Good afternoon. I think we've been hearing a lot of interesting stuff, statistics and other things around till now. But probably I'll start on a very slightly negative note because I'm an operator. We understand the challenges. Fiber is there. Just a small background of myself. I'm completing about 35 years in the telecom industry this year, out of which 25 years have been spent as a vendor, and last 10 years is more on the service provider side of it. As a company, we operate in the northeastern part of the country, which sitting in Delhi, most people would not have much of an idea about. But it's quite an interesting area, both culturally as well as business-wise. We have two flavors. We have our own license as an ISP for all the 6 states in the Northeast except Assam. And in Assam, we work with RailTel Railwire as their managed service partner. So with that, we have a reasonable footprint across the Northeastern region itself. The slides are there, but I would just sort of take a step forward. And we've been discussing about FTTH with underground fiber. The reality in our cities across the country, and particularly in the Northeast, is the fiber actually hangs overhead because there are severe challenges, as everyone has talked about ROW. Even with overhead, there are challenges on ROW again. And of course, in my presentation, we can move with the presentation, or we can take it otherwise. Can I just move the next slide? Sorry. So that's generally the agenda. We can try and stick to it, or we can move out of it. This is a standard network architecture of an FTTH environment as it is. And then when we come to, in the overhead architecture, we are actually putting our fiber on poles, electric poles, and from there a drop wire goes into the residence of the subscriber, or if there is a condominium, then it goes into the condominium and then gets distributed beyond that. And I think every house these days is a Wi-Fi hotspot. So Wi-Fi is becoming ubiquitous wherever broadband comes in. I've hardly seen any place where the old LAN still exists. It is actually a wireless LAN in most cases, and even offices are moving gradually into a wireless scenario. We work, particularly in the RailTel sequence, we work closely with the cable operators, and there we get into the rural areas as well. There are challenges of a different nature in the rural areas. One is, of course, fiberization in the rural areas has not happened so much. We have been studying Assam, for instance, from a RailTel railwire perspective. Of course, Mr. Dua would have a very clear view of BSNL fiberization as far as rural areas is concerned. I would say there is, at least in the state of Assam, we are still only 30% fiber. And if I talk about providing customer support in the rural areas. So the best way of approaching these is local cable operators. And local cable operators do not go in a planned environment. They go gradually. So if there is a customer, they'll probably put a single core or a 2-core fiber and run with that. Now that is primarily being used for their cable operations. You want to write the same fiber, so we use a technology called EDFA, which is upfront a little heavy, but it makes life simpler for the cable operator down the line. And increasingly, we see small cable operators with capacities of 300 subscribers, 200 subscribers, and 100 subscribers coming in. Getting back to the urban area, the challenge with urban areas is we're not very well organized as an industry. And I would say across the board, even the big players, initially Jio started to do underground, but then they came overhead. Then they started putting their fibers like we do on the electric poles. But I think now they've taken a different route and they're putting up their own poles across the city. But if you go to any city, at least particularly, for instance, if I talk about Guwahati in Assam, you would probably see an electric pole with about 25 fibers pulled across. It's not very well organized, and there is always a fight between the power corporation, the municipal corporation, the ISP, and any other government body. So if that gets organized better, this dream about FTTH rollout in huge numbers is definitely possible. Our effort and costs go in trying to sort out these issues. And with the result, what happens typically in a month, I think every fiber gets cut once at least. If we are better organized, this propensity will not happen. And again, you might talk about any kind of service, but it does take few hours to restore a fiber from the time it gets cut. Again, the Northeast is famous for its monsoons. We have monsoons for about 6 to 8 months a year. And with fiber, while it's raining, you can't climb an electric pole, and you can't do splicing. I mean, you can do splicing with extra precautions, but it is not the best. So those are the challenges that we face, particularly in the Northeast, and I'm sure people in the rest of the country would also have similar issues. So again, what I have been trying to talk about is to talk to DOT and try and get all players together. We work with in various cities. For instance, we have operations of our own in Shillong, in Aizawl, in Itanagar, in Pasighat. Every city has its own challenges. A typical example, in Aizawl, we ran public Wi-Fi service for Aizawl Municipal Corporation. In fact, we still are running that. But Aizawl Municipal Corporation does not talk to the electricity board. The poles are owned by the electricity board. PWD has the rights for the ground. So if you want to erect a pole, you have to go to PWD. Another challenge which we as an organization faced 5 years ago when we started operations in Shillong, we started a purely wireless network. So we've done that journey of wireless to fiber. And we not only did broadband, we also did public Wi-Fi. So in Shillong city today, we have 200 hotspots running, actively running today in all the market areas. Similarly, in Aizawl, we have about 150 access points running as a public Wi-Fi service itself. Initially, we had to put up towers. So in Shillong city, we have something like 12 towers and poles across the city to connect the city. All initially were on RF, on radio itself, and unlicensed band, the 2.8 and the 5.8 gigahertz band. As the capacity started increasing, and again, this is an interesting illustration. When we started our services, our first service or the minimum service that we provided in broadband was 2 Mbps. And it was clean 2 Mbps. At that point of time in 2017, 2 Mbps was a luxury because most of the providers would provide 512 kbps or the likes. When we came in with 2 Mbps, clean 2 Mbps, there was a revolution. Today, we are actually talking about 100 Mbps and 150 Mbps, but on the ground, reality still remains. A normal household consumption is only 10 Mbps to maximum 20 Mbps. All the 50 Mbps and 100 Mbps is good, nice to have, but in actual practical terms, how much can a user consume? Our practical experience still says that even if he's got a 50 Mbps pipe or 100 Mbps clean pipe, he's still using only about 10 to 20 Mbps. There are not enough applications available today, except for maybe for gaming. There are gamers who need much higher bandwidth. But otherwise, there are not so many applications available today where the demand for 50 Mbps or 100 Mbps really is there. And that's also a reason why I'm sort of a bit of a cynic on 5G. We might have the infrastructure coming in, we might have the deployments being done. Where are the applications? Where are the requirements? Yes, there would be certain key applications, but until unless the applications get built up, 5G utilization will not happen. I, as a user, do not need 1G coming to my phone. What do I do with 1G bandwidth coming to my phone? I'm happy with getting 10 or 20 Mbps itself. Do I have applications to go there? Anyway, that's the cynic part of me. But coming back to reality. So in FTTH, apart from managing the fiber, which is a challenge for any ISP or operator down there, the other is a bit of redundancy. So you really come back to a situation of should I have a centralized network or should I have a distributed network? How many distribution points do I have? And so we've actually worked on some models to actually bring in redundancy even in an FTTH architecture. We've succeeded some places. We're trying out new places. So the vision is that maybe within this year, we should have a redundant FTTH architecture running on the ground. Manpower is a huge challenge. And again, I think it was discussed in the first session as well. Skill development really needs to get in there to try and build. And Northeast is typical. Northeast, except for the states of Assam and Manipur, where you have technical resources available, the rest of the states do not have any technical resources available. In terms of engineering colleges, in terms of diploma institutes, itself, it's very, very limited. What I keep telling the people in the Northeast and the general bureaucrats as well, is till the time Northeast organizes it as a unit. Today, because of the tribal culture, they are separate entities. Meghalaya thinks about itself, Mizoram thinks about itself. Till the time all the 7 states plus Sikkim don't organize themselves as one unit because they have similar problems. The way of putting the problems across is different. If they don't organize themselves together, and unfortunately, mainland India will not really listen to them because their problems are unique. It's in a normal parlance, people talk about India as a cultural group like Europe. I would say Northeast is also like a cultural group like Europe itself. You look at Arunachal itself, Arunachal has something like 36 tribes. Nagaland similarly has about 20 tribes. The number of languages across the Northeast is about 100 to 150. And there is no commonality. If you move from one state to the other state, for instance, Mizoram is a classic example. It's like a closed state. Another interesting anecdote associated with it is, I have a trade license in Shillong, in Mizoram, in Meghalaya and Mizoram, because of my ISP license. But The trade license actually is in my employee's name. I cannot get a trade license as a company. I cannot own property there. So these are interesting anecdotes from the region. Sure. So what we've done is, apart from providing the pipe, because we are very sure that a year from now or 2 years from now, we will not be able to price the bandwidth going into the house or going to the office. We have to have services riding on top of that. So we've worked on smart home as a business case, and I think it's, as a start, security is an important criterion where people are really interested, because the Wi-Fi hotspot is already there in the house. It's adding a camera associated with that, which can be managed from wherever. And then certain smart applications which come around. And again, we did a research across the country, and we saw most of the companies were actually Chinese companies who were actually hawking these products. Fortunately, we came across Hero Group, which has a manufacturing plant now available in Manesar, and they are actually focused onto this space, so we're partnering with them, and it is becoming an interesting journey. The other area which we are actually aggressively pushing, and FTTH is helping us there, is public Wi-Fi, as well as managed Wi-Fi, because there are a lot of campuses which have Wi-Fi, but there is no management behind it. When we started off 2 years ago on hotel segment, we found, and typically this happens when you get into a hotel, they give you a password, and that password is known to everyone and his uncle, as well as the panwala sitting outside. Now, that is an issue for a lot of the hotel properties. So we've tried to bring in some management on that. So we are actually managing a lot of hotels, the Wi-Fi part of the hotel itself, from our central node as well as from a local node. So we're trying to bring in additional services which actually can keep us afloat, as well as provide a differentiation to the end customer, who otherwise would probably go to get taken away by a Jio or an Airtel. So we call ourselves a boutique ISP, and that's how we try to survive. Just on the profile itself, which I've already talked about earlier. Thank you.
Thank you, Shailendra ji, and I'm very sure the audience would have enjoyed the insights he has given on the challenges. And right of way is the big challenge that he has explained. And I have one small thing to share with you. Imagine situation where right of way is with monkeys. I'm not talking of the municipal authorities as monkeys, but the real monkeys. I had come back from a trip to Vrindavan, and then I was sitting in my office. I had one conversation with one of the partners who was working in Delhi, FTTH, and then he wanted to roll out in Noida, Ghaziabad. And I shared my experience of Vrindavan with him. I said the partner is not really able to work there because of the problem of monkeys. So if you have the overhead fibers, then probably every now and then they'll do their job, and then your connection is lost. He said, sir, do you know that there are more horrible and terrible monkeys in Delhi than you have in Vrindavan? I said, no, I do not know. He said, I operate in areas in Delhi where you have this situation, but it's the right skill, the knowledge, how to put up the fiber in an area where you have monkeys, and still you will be able to run your network. He said, I have the skill, I have the team, you give me a chance and I'll do a better job than what you have seen in Vrindavan. I said, please go ahead, that's what I wanted. That's why I shared the problem with you. And believe me, he now has some 700 plus connections in Vrindavan with the right team being put up there, right? So what he told was a very right point, that a skill is a serious gap, though we talk of last mile and all that professionalism and the investment, but to find a right team who will do the right job and keep the customers happy is still a very big challenge. And I'm sure with times evolving, the skill gap should get covered as quickly as possible. We are also putting our best efforts. We have a program called SWIFT, Skillfully Wiring India with Fiber Technologies, where we give a 4-day mandatory training to our partners when we onboard them and tell them that what is the technology, what are the incentive programs and all that, so that they have the right knowledge to put their hands into the field. Some of them are already pre-equipped, but large set of them are not. So this is one thing where we need to work as a country. Thank you so much once again. And we have now the last speaker before we'll break for lunch. And then now he has a challenge on hand to keep you engaged and not look towards the buffet area. So Mr. Sudhir Kunder, he's the country director for DE-CIX, and he'll now be sharing his thoughts with you. Over to you.
So, first of all, a very good afternoon, and thank you, Mr. Dua, for making life a little bit easy for me. Toughest slot to be in. It is me who's standing in between you and your sumptuous lunch. But good afternoon also to the 650 plus online participants who've been patiently hearing this exhilarating session that we've been seeing. And just to let you know, DE-CIX India has been here for the last, DE-CIX has been in India for the last 4.5 years, out of which the last 2.5 years have been one of the most exhilarating times that the interconnection business has seen, probably across the globe in our ecosystem and definitely in the Asia-Pacific region. So DE-CIX typically, as you know, is a platform wherein on one side you have the A side where you have the Googles, Facebooks, and Akamais of the world, and on the other side you have the consumers where the ISPs and the enterprises on board with us by virtue of the spread that we bring to the geography. In short, DE-CIX Global has got 32 exchanges around the world, and we have 2,600 odd connected customers and growing rapidly. We are connected at 500 plus data centers across the globe. With due humility, I would like to tell you that DE-CIX Mumbai has been now Asia-Pacific #1 in terms of connected customers for the last 1 year or so, with 29 countries and 153 exchanges to look at. And not only that, but in India also, we are one of the largest. We are the largest connected customer base organization with more than 520 plus customers. This is our spread. We are available across data centers only, and 16 POPs is what we have across the 4 geographies of Mumbai, Delhi, Chennai, and Kolkata. And in addition to that, by a unique tie-up with Lightstorm Capital Ventures, which got announced a couple of months back, we are available across 22 additional data centers. It is the WIP, so very soon all 22 of them would go live. Coming from there, the service offerings and why these introductory pieces are necessary is what you'll realize in some time, so please would request you to pay attention here. A single access port, which gives you access to multiple services like Internet Exchange, Cloud Exchange, maps, and a host of other services to come through. While Internet Exchange definitely is known to a lot of y'all, wherein our Mumbai property helps you offload traffic to the extent of 92%. Cloud Exchange is a unique proposition across the same infrastructure, wherein we have access to AWS, Azure, Google, and Oracle Cloud. So this contributes to roughly 92% of the Indian cloud space today. And anybody wanting to go on ramp or use their hybrid will find it as a very useful mechanism. And we've seen a large telco, yes, a large telco, come on board with us in the month of October last year. And we've seen rapid adoption and acceleration of that service, which they've been able to do from their earlier assignments that they used to manage. This is where, in short, I would let you know the basic benefits that you would have in connecting up with an exchange and why it gets more relevance as we go ahead. You have better control on your traffic. You have scalable, robust, reliable, as you've heard a lot of participants and presenters talk about it on the ramp, on the go as to why is it that we see these things being equally important, not now, but earlier also when it was needed badly during the pandemic and after that. This is some staggering numbers that I thought I should bring to the table while I heard a lot of presenters saying about the traffic implosion that they saw. Just look at the number here. OTT and VOD at 240, 2,480% growth. And these figures are basically from Feb 20 to Feb 22. So it's typically that period where roti, kapda, makan and internet became important at that point of time. So these are some staggering numbers wherein 779% of CDN traffic, ISP traffic grew by 780%, gaming traffic that got spoken about some time back at 2156, so on and so forth. And why is it that we become more critical for the FTTH business is what I would want to spend some time now. This is where the current landscape looks like in India. A lot of earlier participants have spoken about it, so briefly. After China, India is the second largest country with 658 million users as of now. Our usage currently, these are up-to-date figures, is in the range of 13 GB per day. As we see, fiber is being laid out anywhere between 350 to 1251 kilometers. And it was exhilarating to understand the kind of fiberization that Bharat is also doing in terms of the India that we speak about. So when I heard a rural piece going in that pace, that probably next 3 to 5 years, the true digital India will actually come and show the power of connectivity, so to speak. By 2025, India will have 1,134 million internet users. And that's not too far away. And FTTH, if you see, has grown by 0.7 million in 2014 to about 4 million in 2020. This figure will touch a bare minimum of 10 million is what we feel. And with this kind of a implosion, there are some potential issues, problems, challenges that a couple of earlier presenters have spoken about. But this is where I see three major things happening. One, obviously, adoption when the ISP wants to adopt a new CapEx deployment. That is where it comes in. Customer margins have started shrinking in. Deployment of CapEx is always a challenge in this business. Now, while I don't want to go too much into numbers here, what I would want to bring down as a moot point is once an ISP onboards with us at an interconnection platform, he will not only be able to offload traffic, get better latencies, but better quality of service, upgrade on the fly, but there is a substantial amount of savings. This enumeration is for a 5G, 5 gig kind of a customer, an ISP who would necessarily have spent about 90 lakh rupees. But after putting all his costs together and the optimization that we bring to the table, overall, the figure is hidden here a little bit, but 43.36 lakhs is the cost that ultimately he ends up saving for himself, which then gets actively deployed, which is what our experience has been across geographies, specifically down south, where we've been participants to some growth stories with our early adopters. You see, ISPs can reinvest this money into not only FTTH deployment, but also by virtue of having a reliable, capable network, they will be able to go into MDUs, which are today SME, SMB, and enterprise-bearing customers as well. This will help him not only get into a better customer stickiness, better scalability, better reliability, have control of traffic on both sides and security of traffic on both sides, but also the availability of cloud exchange and on-the-fly provisioning of one or more than one cloud service providers across our port helps him make at least 70 to 80% margin, thereby giving him the confidence that if he's gonna be aligning with the only legal exchange here in India, not only is he future-proofing himself from all compliance issues, but he's also taking care of the fact that his investments that he makes diligently are recovered at the fastest possible pace. These are a couple of things that become important for us in terms of how, just a sec. Yeah. So these are a couple of key points that I would want to draw your attention to as to why is it that we say that Internet exchange and cloud exchange both form a formidable combination for not only helping a better control, but also to ensure that the customer stickiness goes up, the ability of that particular customer at an ISP level to serve his customers well, to have security at the POP level and beyond the POP level, because you have a secure network available at your network level also, because FTTH probably is one of the most secure ways of connecting to your customer. And over a period of time, the way he is able to get ROIs is going to be significantly higher as compared to other folks who would probably have challenges in taking things forward. And this is where we come. FTTH being one of the best models of delivery, you will have latencies which probably people would think whether they're possible or not, and we have some figures which say that by coming onto an exchange, not only does one get better latencies, but when you are on a fiber network, it's a double whammy for the customer and for the ISP as well, because the kind of customer stickiness that he gets is unprecedented. The security obviously has two layers now. Now he's going to deliver on a secure network, and he's going to work out of a POP which is 100% secure, and it's almost like a Fort Knox from where he takes delivery and takes it forward. With this adoption, customer will definitely be able to come into a picture where he's tying up with a ISP who's got scalability, reliability, customer sensitivity, and exactly those things that currently a customer looks at. Together, FTTH and interconnection will enable something that makes life easy at both the ends, from a business person's point of view, where he wants to offer secure, reliable, scalable, and a future-proof network, and from a customer standpoint, wherein he is in a position to be rest assured that the quality of services come to play at the time that he needs it the most. These are some verticals, and we've been at the forefront of research. DE-CIX.net, if possible, needs to get visited, and you see so much of research that we do, and we put it up as open source because we look at this business as having collaborators in the endeavor to making internet an easily accessible service, and as a result of which we have case studies across verticals which make us relevant not only to the ISP community but also to the enterprises as well. As I said, some time back we have a telco onboarding with us and a couple of them having POCs as of now. Now, we make things possible, as a result of which there is a very clear-cut vision that we hold, making digital being available for everything, for everyone, and everywhere. This is where we see the application and content coming together, and latency, as I said, happens to be the new currency and hot chip. And this project has been put up by Microsoft themselves on their website so that customers are able to understand how we will be able to bring down latencies from 51 ms to 5 ms. This is one of the major reasons I feel that while there is challenge, there are issues and problems for people to deploy FTTH, but there are solutions available at an arm's length wherein we will be able to help and ensure that the community in general is able to, the ISP community in general is able to get better ROIs when they move towards this direction of FTTH adoption. Thanks a lot for your time, and I hope I have not given Vivek the time to. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Sudhir ji. The peering and the caching thing that he explained, all ISPs are highly benefited with this science, because if I look from a telcos or ISP perspective, which BSNL is, 3 years back, our international gateway traffic versus the peering caching was like 50-50. Today, it is almost 85% is peered and cached, and remaining goes out from the gateway. So that is the benefit in terms of cost, which comes to the ISPs or the operators. And secondly is the customer delight because of the low latency that one finds on the dispensing of traffic or data. So from both sides, it's a win-win situation. And I really congratulate DE-CIX or the other our partners into the whole science of peering and caching for bringing in this joy to the customers. And without taking more of your time, I would like to now close this session. Once again, thank all the speakers for the excellent thought sharing, and you also engaging very actively in the whole program. Thank you once again. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for chairing this session. Now may I request Sri Vivek Duaji to the present mementos to our distinguished speakers. To start with, Mr. Rajesh Rao. Dr. Rajesh Rao, sorry. He's the CEO of Left-Hand Software. Mr. Dean from Comscope. Sudhir from DE-CIX. Shailendra from Sheldon. Rajneesh from Courses Technologies. Sir, I would like to present a memento on behalf of Bharat Exhibitions. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We'll now break for the lunch. Please join us by 2:45 for the next session. Thank you.